Yo guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be having a look at the economics paper 1. The MCQs are in I think a week or something, so hence why I thought let me just quickly record all these paper 1 so that it can help you in your revision. I'll try to upload as many as I can, but this is the first one and we are going to start off with the May June 2021 and then we'll go downwards as we progress. So this is variant 1 paper 1. So let's begin. Okay, so the first question says, which statement about the factors of production are correct? We know which factors of production. We know 4 factors of production. How you remember this is something called cell, where we have capital, we have enterprise, we have land, and we have labor. Okay, so enterprise, land, labor. So capital, enterprise, land, and labor. So before we go that deep into this, let's go and read the question. So it says, which statement about the factors of production are correct? Capital is a financial resource that includes saving in banks. That's wrong, because capital is man-made resources like machinery, stuff like that. Enterprise is limited in supply and includes office workers. Office workers is labor. Okay, office workers are someone that helps in the production, so that's wrong. Labor is a human resource and includes pensioners and children. Children, are they labor? No, they're not labor. Children are not in the labor. Land is a natural resource and includes trees and fish. That is correct. Okay, so land is a natural resource and trees and fish. So the definition of land is anything that's found on top of the earth's surface or below the earth's surface is called land. That is a natural resource. So that is land. So that's the first question. The next question, it says, let's highlight the key points. It says builder spends 1 hour traveling. So he is spending 1 hour traveling to work from work, and he works 40 hours per week for $200, and he is given a choice to work for 50 hours a week for an extra $75. So right now he's working 40 hours, so that 40 hours will go to 50 hours. That $200 will go to $275. Okay, this is all per week. So he said, what is the opportunity cost? What is opportunity cost? The definition of opportunity cost is something that you've foregone. It is the next best alternative of a good foregone. That means that if I have 2 products, I have product A, I have product B. If I pick product B, then product A will be the opportunity cost. This is the good I have foregone. So anything I have lost in the process of my decision is called opportunity cost. So let's read the instructions let's read the answers. The ability to increase his purchasing power. Is that opportunity cost? No, he's not losing the purchasing power. He's gaining. He is able to spend more. So that will be wrong. Remember, opportunity cost is what he loses. Okay, so let's see. The additional time of traveling to and from work. He is traveling 1 hour to work. It'll be the same no matter anything, right? Because if your office is 1 hour from your house, it will always be 1 hour from your house, no matter how much they pay you. So this is also wrong. The increased hourly earnings of $7.5. This is also wrong, because we are not losing that $7.5 because we are gaining that, so that is wrong. The 10 hours of leisure time, that is correct. Leisure time is the opportunity cost. You are losing 10 hours of the potential leisure time that you have. So the answer is D. Move on to the next question. A country's infrastructure was damaged by a natural disaster. Remember, if there's a natural disaster and there's a PPC curve, we know there's an inward shift. We have 2 types of shifts in a PPC curve. Of course, there's one which is along the axis, and there's one which is an inward shift, one which is an outward shift. Already I can tell you, whenever they mention a natural disaster, it's a factor of an inward shift, so most likely it will go downwards. Okay, but let's see. Before the disaster, the country was producing at point Y, so it's producing here, right? It's producing at point Y, and what happens after the disaster? It will go inward shift, so the answer will be D. Okay, so let me write that. The answer here will be D, because it is an inward shift. But if we found resources, it will shift upwards to point C maybe, or something like that. But of course, if it's outward shift, then there'll be another line and then there'll be a point there. Okay, so yeah, that is how we do it. This point here is unattainable. Okay, we don't have the resources for that. Okay, we move on to the next question. It says, what is included in microeconomics? So we have 2 types of parts of economics we study, which is microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics, we study everything related to producers and consumers. So producers and consumers. And the macroeconomics is about the entire economy. Here we talk about economic growth, we talk about inflation, deflation, poverty, all those types of sort of stuff. So what is included in microeconomics? The calculation of national income. That's wrong. National income is the entire economy, right? So this one is wrong. The effects of a change in exchange rates. Again, this is wrong, because exchange rates is decided by the bank, is decided by the government, the central bank. So this is again wrong. The effect of an increase in the price of a good or service. That is correct, because remember, we looked at consumers and producers. So if the demand for this good increases or something like that, then all that is related to the producers and consumers, because producers will produce the most good that gives them the most profit. So hence why they look at all that type of stuff. Consumers will look at the cheaper good, and then so on and so forth. So the answer should be 4C. Okay, and factors leading to demand pull inflation. Wrong. Remember, inflation we said was macroeconomics. Okay, the consumers don't really care about the inflation. Move on to the next question. Okay, it says, what is an economist definition of a market? A market is whereby goods are exchanged. Goods are exchanged. Okay, goods are exchanged. So anything related to this, goods and services are exchanged. Let's see. A collection of informal retail outlets run by small firms. This is wrong. Okay, this is not retail outlets run by small firms. There could be a larger firm. Okay, there's nothing like a smaller firm only. There could be a monopolistic company. It's still part of a market, so that's wrong. A place where traders gather regularly for short periods. That again is wrong, right? It could be 24 hours. We don't know. It's not a must for short periods. And it's not only traders. There's of course consumers, because goods are exchanged between the traders and the consumers. Let's see. A system that enables individuals and firms to buy and sell goods. That is correct. Okay, so this is a system that allows even firms to buy, even consumers to buy. So it's not a must only consumers can buy, even firms can buy. Okay, so that's the answer. And the existence of a consumer demand for good, that's wrong. It could be any sort of stuff. It could be also demand from the producers on their supplies, and so on and so forth. So the existence of consumer demand for a good, that is wrong. Okay, move on to the next question. So it says, what is an example of an external benefit? External benefit, remember, we have external benefit simply means that when you are cycling, right? Okay, when you're cycling and you're not taking part in cycling, that's why it's external. If it was private benefit, that would mean maybe health, so on and so forth. But when it is external, okay, you even highlight this. When it is external, it means I am not cycling, but why will it benefit me? Okay, so from someone cycling, how will it benefit me, right? So let's see. Higher cost of building cycle lanes. That's wrong. It will not impact me, right? Because I'm not, it won't help me because I'm not cycling, so it will not really help. Improved physical fitness to the individual from cycling. Will that help me if the person who is cycling is improving their physical fitness? That is wrong. The next one, lower cost of cycling compared to driving to work. That is again wrong, because I am not cycling. That would be a benefit to the person who is cycling, not me. Reduce congestion for other road users. That is correct, because people are cycling. When I'm driving, there will be less congestion, right? We move on to the next question. It says the tailor has 4 customers for a range of suits. Okay, and the table shows the yearly demand for the suits she makes. Okay, so we have customer R, customer S, customer T, and customer U, and we have the suit prices that are here. It says which price should be charged to maximize the tailor's yearly revenue. Okay, so we need to look at the combination that gives us the most money. Okay, so we have to look at that type of combination that gives us the most money. Okay, 1 second, guys. Yeah, so we need to look at the combination that gives us 1 second. Give me a second. Let me just quickly zoom this in. Okay, yeah, so we need to look at a combination that gives us the most revenue. So let's see. The suit price is $800. Customer R is getting 4 of that. Customer S is giving me 1, and customer T 2, customer U 2. Okay, so which one should we need, right? Which one should we need for this? So we need to look at this. You can already see that there's so many customers here for $800, but let's see. Let's use our calculator and calculate how much revenue each gives us, right? So let's see. Let's start off with the first one. So it will be 800 times 4 plus 800 plus 800 times 2 plus 800 times 2, which is 7,200. So the first one will give us 7,200. We move on to the next one. 900 times 4 is 3,600 plus 900 plus 1,800. So that will give us 6,300. So that one is lower. Then the next one is 1,000 times 3 plus 1,000 plus 1,000, which is going to be 5,000. And then we have 1,100. So 1,100 times 2 plus 1,100, which will give me 3,300. So which one is the highest revenue? It's the first one. So the answer is the 800 one, because it gives us the most revenue throughout the year. Okay, we move on to the next question. The next question is telling us, I think this is let's see. Okay, so here it says, in response to an increase in the price from $5 to $6, a farmer increased supply from 400 kilos to 500 kilos. What is the price elasticity? How do you calculate PES, price elasticity of supply? It is the change. Okay, actually let's write it in this. It is the one second, oops, sorry. It is the change in quantity supplied over the change in price. Okay, that is the formula, quite easy. So let's see, how do you calculate change? You need to know that. To calculate change, you just do new minus original over original. So let's see. So the first one, the quantity is changing from 500, which is new, from 400 to 500. So it will be this, multiply that by 100, divide this from 6 minus 5 over 5 times 100. So what will that give us? Let's put that in your calculator. So 500 minus 400 over 400 times 100, and then in below 6 minus 5 over 5 times 100. That will give us 5 over 4, which is 1.25. Oops, sorry. So 1.25. So the answer is D. Okay, 1.25. We move on to the next question. It says, it is expected that consumers will use less paper money. What is the most likely reason for this? So remember, you need to know the characteristics of money, okay, and why people use money. Okay, one is flexibility, portability, durability. So I think we're looking at all sorts of stuff like that. So inflation reduces the value of paper money. That it doesn't matter, because even if I go to another form of money, right, inflation is in all forms of money. It's all forms of money, not only paper money. So that's wrong. More ways of making payments will be available. Yeah, that's correct. That is more on maybe it just makes it's more easier, right? If there's another payment method, people that find it more easier to use, people will use that. Other forms of money are durable. That's wrong. Okay, because it is the characteristics of money, but it wouldn't switch from paper money to this, because it doesn't matter, like, because money is, when we're looking at these characteristics, we look at all of them, all the types of money, meaning paper money is also durable. It's not only because other forms are durable. So paper money might have, that's wrong, because all money has the same value, right, no matter the form of the money. Move on to the next question. In low-income countries, fewer girls than boys become skilled design engineers. Okay, so what might explain this situation? So here it says, in low-income countries, fewer girls than boys become skilled design engineers. What might explain this situation? Let's see. Girls are only interested in low-wage jobs. That's wrong, completely wrong. It already just doesn't make sense, because who would be interested in low-wage jobs? I mean, like, as in, so that's wrong. Girls do not favor heavy manual work. That again is wrong. Another superstition maybe, but that's wrong. They could work in the heavy manual work, so that's wrong. Girls have few opportunities to complete higher education. That's correct. The reason to why they can't become engineers is maybe because they lack the qualifications, and maybe because they have few opportunities to that. So hence why it will be C. It costs more for girls to be trained as design engineers. That is wrong. The cost is the same for each gender, right? So we move on to the next question. The diagram shows the demand for supply. The diagram shows the demand for and supply of labor in an industry. The original equilibrium is at X. So it is at X right here. Trade union then negotiates a wage rate of W. So right now it is at equilibrium, right? It is at this point. It is at equilibrium. It says what identifies the change in employment. Okay, what will happen to the quantity when the wages increase? Okay, so let's look at what the question has told us. The wages has increased. What will happen to the quantity? Of course, the quantity will increase. Who would not want more wages, right? So the quantity would increase, right? So the options, let's look at this. The first option is OR. OR is where? OR. This is the change. Is this the change? No, that's not the change. That cannot be the change. Okay, because it's operating at equilibrium, not at this point. So hence why that is wrong. But let's see what happens. Let's not look at the options, but let's just examine the graph. For example, your wages has increased, and your wages has increased because of the trade union negotiating. Of course, the quantity of labor will increase, right? The quantity of labor will increase, and it will increase from point X, right? It will go, right? It'll move from this region, right? It'll move from this region. So will it go up the supply curve or will it go up the demand curve? Okay, that's what the question is testing us on. When there's a change in wage rate, supply will not change. It's a demand to change. So from point X, it will move to this point right here, because the demand will increase. Okay, there will be an extension in the demand curve, right? It will increase the demand, not the supply. Supply, nothing happens to supply, right? Of course, okay, I mean the labor will increase, but because of wage rate, because we're looking at wages upon quantity, it will move from here. So it will move from R and then till here. So that is RS. So the answer should be C. This is a bit more advanced. It could be a bit tricky to understand, but again, with more past papers, questions like this you will understand more easily. But whenever we're looking at the wage rate for the change in employment, it will move from X then to there. Okay, so from here to there. Okay, that is the answer to that question. Move on to the next question. Okay, a company mining cobalt, why can I not write? Okay, sorry, it's lagging a bit. Okay, so it says a company mining cobalt invests in machinery to replace some workers. So they are replacing the labor with capital. Capital, remember, is machinery. It then says eventually diseconomies of scale occurs. Okay, so there's diseconomies of scale. So what could cause this situation? Okay, let's see. As more cobalt is mined, average costs increase. Yep, that should be right. As more cobalt is mined, average costs increase, because maybe this cobalt or the machinery, the output increases so much that they experience diseconomies of scale. Okay, because maybe not that many people are buying this cobalt according to how much they're producing, so that would be an average cost. But let's look at the other ones. Fewer workers are needed to produce the required output. That is wrong, because remember, the machinery will make it faster, so that's wrong. Output per hour increases as more machinery is used, but that does not cause diseconomies of scale. Overhead costs are, remember, whenever we talk about diseconomies of scale or economies of scale in general, we talk about average costs. Anytime we talk about economies of scale, we look at average costs. Okay, so overhead costs, even that one. Okay, so anytime, remember, we look at diseconomies of scale, we look at economies of scale, we talk about average cost. Even in the definition, we talk about average cost. Okay, we move on to the next question. Why are many hairdressers able to operate as a small business? So here we look at the factors of small business. But let's see, high level of competition, that's wrong. Being a small business, there's no that much competition. People are just doing their own stuff, and it's not that much. High scope of economies of scale, nope. Okay, economies of scale is only when you're a big firm and you can take advantage of several factors that we have talked about, like maybe getting a bank loan is more easier when you're big compared to when you're a small business. Then maybe bulk buying and so on and so forth. Okay, longer period of training is required. That's wrong. Okay, longer period of training is not required. Low startup and running costs, that is the reason. Sometimes actually small businesses get subsidies because the reason why governments give subsidies to small businesses is because they want them to grow, right? So they give subsidies, and then once when they become a big business, output increases, economic growth, so on, so forth, employment, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we move on. Dimitri owns a firm that produces and sells bottles of lemonade. So he has a business. Okay, Dimitri has this business, and he is selling bottles of lemonade. He only sells one size of bottle. Okay, he only sells one size of bottle. How would Dimitri calculate the total revenue? So to calculate revenue, how do you calculate revenue? There's a formula for revenue. Revenue is calculated by the quantity I've sold times the price. So let's look at that. Multiply the quantity sold by the cost, not the cost, the price. Okay, there's a difference between cost and there's a difference between price. Okay, so that's wrong. The quantity sold by the price per bottle, yeah, that's correct. Profit, no. Tax, no. Okay, so the answer is B. Which market is likely to be the most competitive? Let's see, barriers to entry should be low, isn't it? Because if it's low, then more people can join into the market, and number of sellers should be many. So the answer is D. So more people, less barriers to entry equals to more competition. An economy has a high rate of inflation. High rate of inflation simply means prices are very high for a particular product. It says in response to this, its government increases the income tax. Income tax meaning if I earn $50 per month, income tax will be maybe 10%. It'll move to 20% of that $50. So my disposable income will reduce. That's what it means by increased income tax. So let's see, it says, what is most likely reason for this increase? So let's see, to discourage the consumption of harmful goods. This is wrong, because when you want to calculate inflation, or when you want to reduce inflation, you need to simply reduce the demand. Okay, you need to reduce demand, because the reason why inflation could happen is because of demand pull inflation. So if I want to reduce inflation, I will reduce demand. So not only harmful goods, but all the goods. To raise money for government spending, I mean, that could be a reason, but remember, in response to this, they want to reduce inflation. This is true, but not in relation to inflation. So this is wrong. To redistribute income, that again is wrong. I mean, again, this could be correct, but then remember, is it related to inflation? To reduce total demand, that is correct. Okay, because inflation is caused by two ways: cost of production is too high, or demand. So to do the opposite would be to reduce inflation. Interest rates are sometimes raised to control inflation. Remember, whenever we use interest rates, it's monetary policy. Why might this policy be effective? Let's see. Consumers may save more. So remember, when there's more interest rates, people will save more. That is true. People will save more, right? Because they get a higher return. If I put $50 in the bank and I take it in 1 year, I might even get $100. That means the interest rate is 50%, okay, or something like that. Okay, government spending may increase. All this is government spending may increase. No, not necessarily. Investment is no. All this is wrong. Again, this is all related to inflation. So the first answer, simple and straightforward, and easy. Move on. A government's revenue grew from 8% to 3.5 trillion. Its expenditure was reduced from 3.69. Okay, so the revenue has exceeded the expenditure. What does that mean? That's a surplus. Whenever your revenue increases, right? Oh wait, sorry. Its expenditure has been reduced. What can be concluded from this? Actually, it's a deficit. It is actually a deficit. Sorry, a surplus is when the expenditure is higher. But here the revenue is grew 8% to 3.25 billion. So it's 3.25 trillion is to 3.69 trillion. Okay, that means that the government is spending more than they're getting money. Hence why it's a deficit. I know it's reducing, but it's still in a deficit. So the government policy aim would be to reduce this deficit. You would want this deficit to reduce. So the answer is B. The government does not want to spend so much. The government wants to get more money and spend little. Okay, the government always wants a surplus. Okay, but the best one is they want it to be balanced. Okay, so a country's inflation rate measured by the CPI was 3% in year 1, and 3 years later it was 0.8%. So 3% went all the way to 0.8%. CPI is falling. What is concluded from this information? If this is ever falling, that means that the rate of the price is falling. The price is not falling, the rate is falling. So that's the answer. Nothing else that you need to explain in this. It's just a simple, straightforward answer. Okay, we move on to the next question. What will deflation most likely lead to? Deflation is when there's a fall in the price, right? So what will this lead to? Let's see. A fall in the real value of debt? No. An increase in the exchange rate? No. An increase in the rate of interest? No. This is just irrelevant information. An increase in the real purchasing power of money? Yeah, that's right. I'll be able to start spending more when there's deflation, because that $50 that I had in my bank account, when there's deflation, what made me buy if I, okay, let's give an example, right? If there was a pen for $50, okay, before deflation, then after deflation I have still that $50, but that pen has now become $30, so I'll have $20 spare. So my purchasing power has increased because I can buy many pens, right? That's why. That's just a quick example, right? So deflation just simply means the value of the product will decrease. Move on to the next question. Economic growth can be defined as, economic growth is when the GDP rises or output rises, anything like that, or productive capacity rises, anything like that, we look at economic growth. So let's see. Reduction in the country's inflation, not relevant. Increase in the country's exports, not relevant. I mean, this could be because of economic growth, but that's not the definition. Increase in country's population, again, this could lead to an increase in economic growth because people can be more employed, but it's not the definition. But an increase in the productive capacity is the definition. Okay, here it says a table compares the distribution of employment in selected industries in 2 years. So we have this industry they have compared from year 1 to year 2, and it tells us what did the distribution of employment change between year 1 to year 2. So let's go to there you go. Agriculture is decreased -1. This is the same, this is the same, this is the same, this is increased by 1. So transport is a secondary, agriculture is a primary. So primary has fallen down, hasn't it? So primary has either this two, and then secondary, okay, most of it is unchanged. Okay, only transport has increased, but that doesn't mean that, everything has changed, because there's majority that's been the same here. Okay, so hence why it should be B. Now this is a tricky question. Many people would say that transport has increased by 1, so the secondary sector has increased. But look here, the manufacturing is the same, retailing is the same, right? Hence why the transport can be classified as tertiary, or actually no, it is secondary, but remember the majority here would be manufacturing and retailing, so hence why it will be unchanged. Move on to the next question. Okay, in a year 2 changes occurred in a company. Company's director salaries is increased by 15%, office workers wages has increased by 5%, and then the rate of inflation was 3.4%. You can see they've increased more by the inflation, so the real income both rose. Okay, it both rose. What happened to the real income? They both rose because the percentage of both of them is more than the rate of inflation, right? So even before inflation, it must have had rose, right? Both of them have increased. Okay, we move on to the next question. Here it's telling us their diagram show the birth rate and death rate in 3 countries, X, Y, and Z, and in 2 years 1 and 2. So there was no migration. Okay, so there says, where was there a rise in population in year 1 and a fall? Okay, so the death rate in year 2 should decrease and birth rate should increase. That should be the logical explanation to this. So in point X, okay, what's happening here? The birth rate is decreasing, so BR is decreasing, DR is decreasing, death rates are decreasing, which is good. Okay, this is good. So if I take if death rates are increasing, population increases. This is good, but this is wrong. We need to find a scenario where the birth rates are increasing and death rates are decreasing. So let's look at this one. The death rates are decreasing. Okay, the death rates are decreasing more than the birth rates. Where there was a rise in population in year 1. Here it's not a rise in population. Here the birth rates are higher in this one, so meaning the population must be higher in year 1. But in this one, in year 2, the death rates are more, which means there's a fall in the population. Okay, so Y is correct. In Z, let's see, the birth rates were lower, death rates were also lower. So this again is wrong, because here the death rates were higher, here the death rates were lower. So yeah, so the answer should be only Y. Answer should be only Y. Okay, that one, those types of questions, just look at the graph and it's as simple as that. Okay, we move on. The richest 60% of the population of a high income economy received an increase in income. Okay, the income of the rest of the population did not change. So we have two types of poverty, absolute and relative. Okay, so in this case, when the whole economy is changed, okay, that means absolute, which will always, it'll remain the same, but relative will increase. Relative poverty is when you're looking at, you know, the rich part of the economy. Like in average, how much do I earn compared to the other rich people? Absolute is always just lower. So the answer should be C, right? So that one's quite straightforward again. Okay, the gross domestic product is a better measure of comparative living standards when it is adjusted for its effects. So it's GDP. Let's have a look at this. So gross domestic product, GDP, is a better measure of comparative living standards when it is adjusted for the effect of. Okay, so GDP, we look at what parts in GDP? We look at exports and inflation. No, that's nothing related to GDP. Imports, exports, no. Population change, yes, but not exports. We don't look at exports. Population change and inflation, yeah. Okay, so population change, we look at GDP. Okay, population change, you see, population change we use in GDP, isn't it? Because the more if your population is a big factor of GDP, like, you know, you might have a big population, but the average GDP must be still low, because maybe the depending per person output might be low, right? And then inflation, of course, we also have a look at that through living standards. Move on to number 27. It says, what is a disadvantage of increasing international specialization? What is a disadvantage? We have many advantages of people, you know, from other countries specializing in my country, but what is the disadvantage? Let's see. Consumers pay higher prices for goods and services, reducing their welfare. No, this is wrong, right? This is wrong, because, you know, actually when you specialize is when the quality increases and the productivity increases, so on and so forth. So reducing their welfare is wrong. Domestic firms may be uncompetitive, leading to structural unemployment. That is right, because if these people, they produce, for example, coffee, and their coffee is way more popular than someone else who is producing coffee that is domestic firm, then they will lose out all that competition, they will lose out all that money, and they'll lead to unemployment. So there will be a disadvantage for the country. Move on to the next question. Which method of production always reduces the supply of an imported good to zero? To zero is the keyword here, even highlighted, to zero. That means it's a complete ban. We know that a complete ban is only an embargo. Embargo is complete ban. Quota is a limited. Subsidy is given by the government, and a tariff is a tax on the imported goods. So 2-0 is embargo, because the embargo is a complete ban. Okay, a US car dealer agrees to an import price of $25,000 for a Japanese car at the current rate of exchange. It says the US dollar then strengthens by 10%. So let's quickly first calculate 10%. 10% of $25,000. So 10% of $25,000 is $2,500. The US dollar is strengthening, okay, against the Japanese yen. So what will be the new import price paid for this Japanese car if it strengthens? Okay, remember this. If it strengthens, right, that means that the US dollar will increase by $2,500. Okay, meaning it's B. Okay, whenever it strengthens by 10% against the yen, then it will increase by 2,500. So it will decrease, because when it strengthens, if I have $100 in this $100 will, if it decreases by 10%, what will become $90? So this $90 will make me buy less than what I could have bought. hence why there's that US dollar will fall. But in this case it has strengthened by 10%, meaning with $22,500 I will afford that Japanese car, but before it was costing $25,000. But because it's strengthened by 10%, now the 22,500 will make me buy that Japanese car. Okay, so hence why that means it's strengthened. Okay, and the Japanese yen has weakened. Move on to the last question. It says a country has a deficit on its current account. Deficit, remember, okay, so let's see, of its balance of payments. Let's look at the question, then we'll explain it if it's relevant or not. What could increase the size of this deficit? Okay, what could increase the size of its deficit? Now, when there's a current account deficit, imports, okay, are more. So if I want to increase this current account deficit, I need to import more. Okay, and of course exports are less in a current account deficit. Okay, so let's see, increased exports and services, that's wrong. Okay, because we need to decrease exports, we need to increase imports. Increase international competitiveness of its goods, that is wrong, because this will mean exports will increase. So again, this will be the opposite of what we need. Increase number of visitors, that's not related, so that's wrong. But yeah, increase spending on military bases abroad meaning we'll import more, so hence that's the answer. So a current account deficit is when the imports are more than the exports. So if I want to increase the size of this deficit, I'll have to import more. So that marks the end of this paper. It was a relatively easier paper. I'll try to upload as many paper ones as I can with the small time frame that I have before your papers. So I'll try my best, and hopefully this video helped you. I'll try to upload as many as I can. So thank you guys for watching this video. I think I've uploaded one other March 2021 previously on my channel, so go check that out if you haven't. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.